Becky Dowd, and this is The Journey to Salvation. Join me as we walk alongside real people and hear the unique journeys that led them to faith in Jesus. Today, my guest is Melinda Hartness. Hello, Melinda.
Hi.
How are you doing?
Wonderful.
You don't have to be nervous.
Yeah.
So, Melinda, I just realized that I see you a lot of times that I didn't even realize it was you that I was seeing. Me playing pickleball, you being at the church where I play pickleball. And so I'm glad we made that connection now. But, you know, I met your parents probably, I'm saying 15, 20 years ago, maybe. And at that time, I didn't really know you, and I just had heard about you because they were raising your sons at that time. But we'll get into that a little bit later. But can you just give us some background information on growing up maybe until you were 18?
Okay. So I've listened to a few of these podcasts, like I said, and it seems like a lot of them start out the same way. Mm-hmm. I had a great childhood. I had great Christian parents in church every time the church doors were open. My mom, she was the Girl Scout leader, the GMA leader, dad, deacon of the church, just a great childhood. Mm-hmm. Never did any wrong. Growing up, you know, I was just the perfect little child, if you can be a perfect little child. I abided by the rules. When I was 9 years old, one of my friends said that she was going up to the front and she wanted me to go up there with her. And so I did. And that night, my dad and we knelt beside the bed and he prayed with me. And I said the prayer and I meant what I said. I love Jesus. I knew about Jesus. I love Jesus. But it's one of those, I was just looking for a savior at the time. And it wasn't until years later, 4 years ago, that I made him my King and Lord. I met a boy when I was 14. And we dated for about a year. My parents did not like him. He was not, you know, I was the goody little two shoes and he was the bad boy. They did not like me being with him. But eventually I was able to get them to come around and accept that relationship. So I ended up pregnant when I was 15. We got married. My dad made it my decision. He wanted to have him arrested. You know, he told me later in life that was his first thought. He wanted to have him arrested and just all the things. But he left it my decision, and we got married when I was 16.
So how old was he?
So when we got together, I was 14, he was 17. So by the time that we married, he was 18. So I had my first child at 16. I had my second one at 18. 2 boys. I never had any desire to touch drugs, ever. And when one day I found out that my husband was doing some things, messing around with meth and stuff. And so, you know, we had a little argument about that, and he said that he stopped. But I just looked at people that, I really looked down on people that did that. I just thought, you know, you're just scum of the earth. You're beneath me. You're, you know, you're gross, like meth. Ew, gross. Mm-hmm. Okay. When I was 19, my husband and I, we fought a lot. we argued a lot. And so we were having an argument. We were living with his parents, his mother and his grandmother in Osceola. And we had an argument one night, and I went in and asked his grandma if she had anything for a headache. I had been crying. My head was hurting. Said, do you have anything for a headache? Meaning like a BC, because she always had BC powder. Mm-hmm. So, meaning like a BC or a Tylenol or something. She said she was out. She said, I'm out, but her nephew or somebody brought these by and said that they were for pain, and hands me a bottle of Darvocets. So I took one, and I was like, wow, headache's gone. This is great. So the next time that I had a headache, that's who I went to, and I got that. So before I knew it, I'd taken, and these are Darvocets. These are like a step above a Tylenol, you know, right. But it helped. And so every pain that I felt, I ran to her and got that. And before I knew it, I'd taken that whole bottle, and the 3 refills that came along with it. And that's what kicked off my addiction to pain pills. So then after that, I had a friend who had hydrocodones. This is back in the day when the doctors were giving the hydrocodones, and Percocets, either in abundance out of either ignorance or I don't know what, but, you know, they were given freely by the doctors then. So I was constantly running to the doctor for something, to the dentist for something. It became, speaking of the dentist, it became, this is how extreme it got. Like towards the end of the addiction, or I wouldn't say the end, but maybe a few years in, I can't tell you, like, the countless teeth that I went and had pulled, the things that I did to myself, like just, you know.
Injuring yourself.
Yeah, anything to injure yourself to be able to go and say, hey, look, I need pain meds. It's crazy. It's crazy when you think back on it.
And this was what, 20 years ago?
Yeah. Well, roughly 20, 25 years ago. I'm 46 now, so yeah. So by 19, I had a pain pill addiction, and this rocked on for 8 years. At the beginning of it, I remember my husband telling me, you know, you've got to stop, because there would be periods that I would be without. So I experienced the withdrawals from the pain pills. And so the first few times he says, you know, that I needed to stop. And I just felt like I couldn't. And so he did try at the beginning to get me to stop. Well, fast forward to 27. At this time, we were living in Mayflower with my parents. And by this time, now the both of us are on pain pills. And it was very hard to supply pain pills enough for the both of us. Our addiction had become greater. Our tolerance, you know, for it. So we now, like, at the time I was taking like five at a time, 4 or 5 times a day, right? I had a very big pill addiction. Okay. He had a very big pill addiction. So one day he has this doctor over in Mayflower, and that had been given him pain meds, and then he would bring them home, and it was for the both of us. So one day he comes in and he says, the doctor said that I'm going through the pills too fast, but she didn't know it it was for two of us. I'm going through the pills too fast. She wants to put him on methadone to help him get off of the Percocets and the Oxycontin and all the things that he had been on. I mean, she had put him on fentanyl. She had put him, just a multitude of things. And then finally settled on methadone. We're going to put you on methadone to get you off of.
Did he really have some pain issues, or was that?
So yes and no. Nothing that he did, but he hurt his back. He worked on the riverboat, and he hurt his back on the riverboat. And so that's how he was able to get all this medicine consistently.
Okay.
So, so she puts him on methadone. So he comes home. The methadone, of course, it's not enough for the both of us. So we decide that I would take the pills that was prescribed from the doctor, and he was going to go to the methadone clinic because we were close to Little Rock and get the liquid methadone that they give you every morning. While he was at the methadone clinic, he met up with some people. And before I knew it, he had stopped coming home at night. He would be gone for days at a time. He would take my mom's car, come back with air conditioners in the back of it and all the things. And so, all the telltale signs that some form of meth was involved. So I found him out one night. He had given hints, clues. I put some things together and realized the general area of where he would be. So I went down into the heart of Little Rock, into the heart of an area that I did not need to be in late at night, and found him circling this house. And I stopped him, and I'm just like, what are you doing? What are you doing? And there, in his eyes, there was just nothing there. Nothing. He had just skin and bones and sores all over him. And nobody was home upstairs. So I told him that you're gross again. You're gross. You're beneath me. I don't associate with people who are doing this. What he had done was he had started shooting up cocaine, and then was in the process of being taught how to cook in hydrostope. And I said, that's not anything I want to be a part of. So I kicked him out. But when I kicked him out, I didn't think it all the way through. Because when I kicked him out, I kicked out my supply for my pills. So I went to my mom and I told her. I sat her down and told her. That was the first time that I told her that I had an addiction to pain pills. I needed to stop. I had been through short spurts before of withdrawals, and I knew how bad they were. And so I didn't know how long, because I always went back to the pills. I didn't know how long it was going to take. But could she watch my boys? Because up until this time, it was just pills. I managed to go to cosmetology school and graduate from that. And it did not interrupt my life in any way aside from when I ran out. And then I just stayed home until I got more. There was no difference in me. So, living with them, and they had no idea. So, I asked her if she would watch my boys. At the time, they were 4 and 7. And I said, I'm going to go in my room, shut myself in there, and see you when I see you, I guess. So for the next 2 months, I stayed in that bedroom. And everything...
You were detoxing.
Hard. Everything that could possibly hurt. The depression was so overwhelming that I was never suicidal, but I would pray, and I wasn't even, a praying person then. But I would pray that God would just come back. I would be okay if you would just come back now. The anxiety is something you can't even explain it. There's no words to describe the restless legs, the just the overwhelming sadness. And I didn't eat. The only things that I ate were bread and bananas because they had the least amount of flavor. Because the flavor, like anything that I ate, felt like it was just like picking up a handful of dirt and eating it. I mean, it just very upsetting in my stomach. And the only time that I would eat that is when the hunger pains were so bad, I just couldn't stand it. I couldn't sleep, but I couldn't be awake. Miserable for 2 months. A friend of mine from Little Rock, she'd call and check on me periodically. And she knew what I was going through. And so one day she was like, just get up and get dressed. Take a shower. I mean, I'd probably had maybe one shower in those 2 months. I did not leave the room. Get up and take a shower, get dressed, and come see me. And so I made myself, after 2 months, get up and take a shower and go to Little Rock. When I went to her, she was at her friend's house. Her friend was also married. Her friend was gone, but the husband was there. And this couple was known for that they had done meth. So I'm in there talking to her, and she's asking me how it's going. And I say, look, my head's killing me. It's killing me. Like, today, I'm not as bad as I was a month ago, but... and
she realized what you were trying to do, get off drugs.
Yeah. Right. Then I hear a voice from the other room say, Melinda, come here. And I looked at her and I said, I know what he's about, and I don't do meth. And she goes, well, tell him that. I mean, so I got up and I went back there. And of course, he has this glass pipe, and he's back there smoking it. And he says, this will take care of your headache. And I said, I don't do meth. And he said, it's not meth, it's ice. And when he said that, I took it as an opportunity to do it. And the excuse that I used was, for a lot of years, was that I knew so little about it that I didn't realize that the ice was the meth. But the realization is that at that point in time, I could have cared less. I just wanted to stop feeling all the things that I was feeling.
Mm-hmm. The physical pain.
Yeah. And the sadness. Mm-hmm. And just the hopelessness and it's just everything emotionally, physically, mentally that could be off and wrong was wrong. And so, so I just wanted something to just ease that for just a second. Just a second.
Did you think you'd just do that once?
I didn't know. I didn't put any thought into it. I put no thought into it whatsoever, other than he said it would take away my headache. I'll try it. Rationalization, I mean, there was no thought behind it. I would have taken anything right then in that moment. I did it, and of course, I felt great. It just makes you feel, I don't know what word to use. Everything was better. Everything was better. And it was better the whole night, and I went home, and then the next day, it started to not be so good. And then I think it was maybe 2 days after that I was calling him. Hey, do you have any more of that? Like, can we do that again? And that was it. It was over. The first time that I tried it, I mean, it was over. It was over with. It grabs you meth is a very evil thing, and it just gets a hold of you. It doesn't discriminate. It doesn't. My morals growing up, having grown up in church, being brought up in church, I knew better. I was totally against it. And within a matter of 6 months of kicking my husband out, everything that I hated about him, everything I kicked him out for, I had turned into. So that started at 27, and that went on to 43. And it just got worse and worse.
So what about your kids?
My kids, my parents. So I started not coming home at night. Again, everything that my husband had done to me, I started doing to them. And I started not coming home at night, and still living with my parents. And then I'd be gone for days at a time. And, at the time, in my mind, throughout all those years, there was a lot of snap out of it. And that I didn't care. But in my mind, I was thinking, oh, I knew how great of a childhood I had. And so they're being taken care of. Like, they're going to have a great childhood because I know how great of a childhood I had. And now looking back on it, of course, you think, yeah, but they needed their mom. Fast forward to about, let's see, I'll tell you this, and I don't know if you want to cut this out or not, but sometimes I share it, sometimes I don't. When I was, 32, I got pregnant by a guy in Little Rock that I had been dating. And during the year that I had him, I was going to, when I was 7 months pregnant with him, I had to have my stomach pumped because I overdosed on pills. When I had him, when he was about 7 months old, I asked my sister if she would watch him while I went to rehab. So I tried to take myself to rehab. It wasn't court ordered or anything, but I knew that was coming because I had spent the past year in and out of jail. I mean, just countless times all throughout the year, probably 8 or 9 times to jail. So I knew that it was coming. So in my mind, I was thinking, I'll just get ahead of the game, get some brownie points in, and go turn myself in to sign myself up for rehab. So I asked my sister if she would take care of him while I went and got better. And like I said, he was about 7 months old, and she said that she would. And when I stayed there 56 days, and when I left there, I went the opposite direction. And
Is it a faith-based?
No, it was not faith-based. It was Wilbur D. Mills over in Searcy. I went the opposite direction. And by the time that I came back around, he was probably, now in my mind, it seems like it had just been a couple of days. But in reality, it had been about 2 years.
Wow.
Yeah. And so by the time that I made it back around, my dad said, no, he's being taken care of. We're just going to, and I said, she's not going to take my kid from me. Right. And then I kind of had a moment of clarity, where it was like, where it moved from, she's not doing this to me, to thank you for doing this for me. And, I loved him too much to pull him out and away from the only home that he ever knew and the only mom that he had ever known. And like, what kind of person would I be to just be like, take him away from that? So, So that hurt, but I let him stay there. And so that also did happen. I leave that out sometimes in my testimony, and I don't know that I feel like sometimes God maybe wants to use it, and sometimes, it just doesn't need to be said. But I did have that third boy, and now today he's 17. He's over here with my sister, and we have the best relationship ever. She says that God knew that she couldn't have any more children at the time, and she needed him. And I believe that. I believe that,
He obviously needed her.
That's right. He did.
Yeah.
And I'm very thankful to my sister. I'm very grateful to my sister for taking that on. But so he's 17. Okay. Then 4 years later, I got pregnant with my daughter. When I got pregnant with my daughter, I'd been living with her dad for about 2 years. And he and I both were on meth pretty bad. And we told everybody that we stopped, but we just got really good at hiding it. We stopped with the traffic. We stopped with the running out at all hours of the night. We just, kind of tightened up a little bit, but we never slowed down how much we were doing. We just got really good at hiding it. So when she was about 9 years old, I started having these feelings of like shame on me, because I was raised in church, and one of her little friends, let me back up. One of her little friends in the apartment complex that we were living in, one of her little friends came over and asked if she could go to church with her on a Wednesday night. Up until this point, she had never been to church. And so I was like, yeah, sure. It's not a Baptist church, but, I'm doing great by letting her go. So I'll let her go. And then she would come in and I'd say, well, what y'all do? Or she would tell me about what they learned about. And I'm like, oh. And then I would ask her about Jonah in the whale, or I would make some reference to the Bible, and she would just not have any clue what I was talking about. And so then I started having these feelings of like shame on me, because I don't know. It was almost like these were things that I just thought that everybody knew. But how could she if nobody ever told her? So that happened. Also around that time, I had been going to R-Care over in Jonesboro. I was on a MAP program with them to get on Suboxone to get off of the pain pills. And every month I would go in and have to take a drug test. And every month they would come back and say I failed it for all kinds of things. And the doctor there, he really liked me though, so he just let it slide. For about 2 years, he let it slide until they got all new people there. They got a new counselor, they got a new receptionist, they got everybody was new. They got new people and new peer recovery coach. And they all told me that the program had done me a disservice by letting me stay there and continue using meth and everything for that long and still getting my Suboxone. So they put me on a strike system. So it was like one strike that day. The next month I came in, it was another strike. The next month I was going in, and I thought there's no need for me to even go in because I know I'm going to get my third strike. So I just threw my hands up and just quit that program. But I knew that I needed to still get the Suboxone and keep on with it. So I found R-Care over here, and I knew that the same thing wasn't going to fly with them like it had been in Jonesboro. So I knew that I had to get clean. So I had an upcoming appointment, and I knew I needed to get the meth out of my system. So that was happening. Also, at this same time, that these things are going on, my sister comes to me and says that she was working for the Methodist Day School. And she said that they were needing help over there. And at this time, I was 43. Yes, I went to cosmetology school and I did that. But outside of that, I'd never worked. I worked maybe 3 months out of my entire life. Wow. And that was just bits and pieces here and there. I went from my parents who provided until they cut me off when I was 30 years old, to this guy, to this guy, to this guy, to this guy. Whoever could pay my way and supply my drug habit where I didn't have to go steal from my parents to do it myself. That's how I ended up with my daughter's dad. And that's, he's the one that had the job and the vehicle and the apartment and the money and the drugs. Mm-hmm. I don't want to put his business out there, okay? But that's how I ended up there. So my sister had come to me and she said that they were needing somebody, and I did not want a job. I'd never worked. I didn't want to work. I did everything that I possibly could to keep from having to lift a finger. But I thought, if I don't, and she knows that I need money, and I don't go apply, then she's going to think something's up. Mm-hmm. And so I went in, I gave the application to her, she turned it in. Melissa Jumper was over that at the time. Mm-hmm. She called me in for an interview, and I'm so grateful for Melissa. She plays such a big part in my story. When I went in, I didn't know it at the time, but when I went in for this interview, I had never been in an interview before, so I was nervous. Mm-hmm. I'm nervous today, very nervous. And she asked me I was in there maybe 5 minutes. She asked me what my definition of child maltreatment was, and I just froze. And I thought, just say something, anything, something. It was kind of like, it was like that episode of Friends where Ross was like, just say words. Any words will do. I sat there for so long, and then I just started bawling. And she says, I've never had this happen in an interview before. Do you mind if I pray for you? And I said, no. So she stopped and she prayed for me. And she ended up showing me, I didn't know what it was at the time, but it was 3 circles. Mm-hmm. So she ends up sharing that with me. And
that's just a way to share the gospel.
Yes.
It's called 3 circles.
3 circles, yes. Yeah. Yes. So I say that it ended up turning into like this little mini church service in this job interview. And I left there that day. I was in there for about an hour. I left there that day and I thought, oh my word, I butchered that. Like, that was so bad, just running away from it. She calls me back. She still wants to hire me. And I'm like, what is going on? So she tried as best she could. Now, again, I wasn't looking for a job, and I really didn't want the job. Mm-hmm. And so she tries for like the next month. So this month that we're working in here, because she tries for the next month because of my felonies that I had mm-hmm. on my record. So whenever she would do the background check, my felony kept popping up. It would send up red flags. She couldn't hire me. I was working with kids, right? Mm-hmm. Mind you, I'm applying for this job to work with these kids, and I'm on meth. I'm on drugs. So that's how well-ish that we, would hide it. And so then she tells me, it never dawned on me about a drug test. She's like, I'm going to send off for your background check and your drug test. We'll get your drug test. And I was like, drug test? How am I going to pass this drug test? So all these things with Maggie going to church, with the Suboxone, and with the Methodist Day School, all these things were going on at the same time. Mm-hmm. And I remember being in my apartment one day and just feeling, I was in the bathroom at Cliff Ridge. And I remember saying, I feel you knocking. I don't know why I don't just let you in. And that was the first thought throughout my whole addiction. I was never one to party. It was never about partying. It was never about just to feel good. It was never, I was sad. It never made me happy. I was sad throughout my entire addiction. I was so sad, and I just hated myself, and I hated that I was doing what I was doing. I had that firm foundation under me. I was brought up in church, and I knew right from wrong, and I knew all the things. Therefore, he was always there. That was always there in my mind, that this is wrong. So I never enjoyed it, right? Mm-hmm. And so it was just, I hated it. I hated it the whole time. I hated it. So all these things were going on, and then I feel this knock on the heart. And I remember as a child being taught, he's always there knocking on the door of your heart. All you have to do is let him in. And I remember that from childhood. And so I remember saying, I feel you knocking. Why don't I just let you in? He started doing a work in my heart. He started drawing me to him around that time, and all these things working together. And I was just out one night. I went to Jonesboro by myself, and on the way back, I just had a one-on-one with God and said, I can't do this. I've tried everything in me. When I was going to our care, the counselor, I would tell the counselor, look, I don't know how I'm going to get to the other side of this. I would go in high and tell her this. I don't know how I'm going to get to the other side of this, but I know I see the light at the end of the tunnel, and I know I'm going to get to the other side of it. I just don't know how, because I don't want to want this. I don't want to want the drugs. Mm-hmm. I really don't want the drugs, but I do still want them because I'm still doing them. And so, I felt God drawing me. And that night on the way back from Jonesboro, I just threw my arms up and said, I can't do this. I can't do this on my own. And this is a God-sized problem, and it's going to take a God-sized miracle. Mm-hmm. And I don't know what else to do. I'm torn. I need to be better. I need to be a mom. Like, she wasn't neglected by any means. I was always there with her. So that was something, more than it was with the boys. But I just was not being the person that I felt I needed to be. So I gave it all to God that night. And then the next day comes around, and I would always do this. Every time it was time for me to have to take a drug test, I would tell my daughter's dad, because we were both doing it. Mm-hmm. And I would say, don't give it to me. I don't care what I do. I don't care what I say. Don't give it to me. Don't do it. But then I would always end up going in there like the next day going, okay, come on, give it to me. Mm-hmm. And he would, argue with me a little bit, but he would always give in. So the next day I knew I had a week until my MAT appointment. So I had 7 days to get this meth out of my system. Mm-hmm. Because I had been through, I'd been through meth withdrawals. I'd been through pill withdrawals. They are nowhere near the same. And I knew that in order to get that Suboxone, I had to have that meth out of my system. Okay. So the next day, I got up and I said, this is the first day. I'm not going to touch it. I had prayed about it. I prayed that God would take this from me. I had given it to him. I was done. I knew I was done. I knew so much that I knew that I was done. I took a picture of myself, and I still have it in my phone, where I'm going like this and I'm holding up my finger and I'm like, day one, because I knew that was it. I knew I was done. But then I also knew that I had an addiction. So I was waiting on those feelings. I was waiting to feel those feelings, and
those feelings of
withdrawal, and the physical withdrawal from getting off the drugs. Okay, so the next day comes, and before I knew it, 30 minutes had come and gone, and I still hadn't. I hadn't touched anything. I hadn't asked for anything. He was there with a pocket full of dope. An hour had come and gone, and I still hadn't done anything. And then a half a day came and went, nothing. The whole day came and went, nothing. And I thought, this is insane. This is crazy. This is crazy. The next day comes and goes, nothing. No desire. No desire to. I will tell you this. After 7 days, I went and took that drug test. I passed it. That was the first drug test that I'd passed. I went home and I thought, okay, now I have 2 weeks before I have to take another drug test. So I could do it again. And then still have a week to get sober. And nobody would know. So I went and did it. I take that back. That picture of the day one, that was not then. That was this part coming. So I went home, and the way I did it was eat it. So I ate some, and then I got absolutely nothing off of it. Not a thing. Nothing off of it. And it was just crazy. It was just crazy. And so from then on, I thought, this is like a miracle. You just don't realize how huge this is until you've gone through it. And
because that was something only God could do.
That was something only God could do. Yeah. So now I have seen what God can do. I've seen that he's real. Mm-hmm. You can't tell me anything different. Like, I've experienced it. So how could I not just be sold out for him? How could he's taken this from me? How could I not be sold out for him? So one night shortly after that, I'm praying for my kids. I'm praying for my boys. And I hear this voice in my head. Okay, let me tell you this. So it was around this time. I don't know. I can't say if it was before or after. I don't know. But it was around this time that I also told my daughter, we're fixing to go to church. And I started taking her to church on Sunday morning. Mm-hmm. So we started at Ridgewood, down by Tolan's. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we started going there for a couple of months. And Ridgeview, yes. And I loved it. I loved the people there. It was a great little church. But I started taking her to church. And then one day I was at home and I was praying for my kids and just praying that specifically at that time, I was praying that my relationship with my older boys, I was praying for that. Mm-hmm. And I heard this voice come in my head and say, 2 Timothy 8:9. And I thought, what is that? Like, why did that just pop in my head? Because, obviously it's a something in the Bible. But at this point, I'd never opened my Bible. I'm like, it's got to be something in the Bible. But I didn't know that there was a 1 Timothy, much less a 2 Timothy. So I go running around the house looking for a Bible, seeing if I can find one somewhere. And I dug it out, and I want to read it to you. This is what it says. Therefore, do not be ashamed of the testimony of our Lord, nor of me as prisoner, but share with me in the sufferings for the gospel according to the power of God, who has saved us and called us with a holy calling, not according to our works, but according to his own purpose and grace, which was given to us in Christ Jesus before time began. So I thought, what does that mean? I don't know what that means. So I called my dad, who was the most Christian man that I knew. And I told him, and he said, well, it's, I'll never forget. He said, good to see that the Holy Spirit is alive and well in you. And I just always remember that. My dad was, as much as it changed me in my life, it changed his too, and my mom's. They prayed for me so faithfully for 43 years. There was never, when I was living with them, there was never a Sunday, there was never a weekday that they didn't say, that my dad didn't come up to me and stop me and look me in my eyes and say, don't forget church, 10:30 Sunday morning. I know, Dad. I know. Don't forget 10:30 Sunday morning. I know. There was never a Sunday that I can remember that I did not hear, missed you in church today. I remember finding an old Bible of my dad's in my stuff and looking in it and finding a bulletin back from Fairview Baptist in Blytheville. We went there shortly after I'd gotten married, and prayer request, and it had Charles and Melinda Winford on there. Okay. And then, kind of jumping ahead here, but then after I started, going to Wynn Baptist, Van telling me that he found a bulletin from back when Dad was going to Wynn Baptist 10, 15 years ago. Prayer request, Melinda Hartness. I remember when my daughter was little, taking her to the park, the Poplar Park over here, and just chatting with another lady that had her granddaughter out there. And she said, that she went to Wynn Baptist. I'm like, oh, do you know my dad? Because a lot of people knew my dad. Richard Hartness. Yes. Now, he used to have a daughter that he would ask us to pray for, and I'd raise my hand, daughter, right here. He was just he just never gave up. Both of my parents, they just loved me and prayed for me. And, that just shows the power of God, and that, I just think about how his faith was strengthened through all of this, what it's done, in not just me, but in him too, and in their life. I thank God I'm 4 years into salvation and sobriety, and I still thank God every single day for calling me, drawing me, saving me, changing me, while my parents were still here and in their right mind to see it and witness it. It's just a great gift from God that I will always be so thankful for.
That was just a blessing to them, I know.
Yeah,
after so many years of seeing you in addiction and
right. So when I got sober, this happened in March of 2022. And then I got baptized Easter Sunday. But, so not only did God, I have so much. There's so much of my story. It's just like, I probably should have sat down and wrote it all out. I probably should have been better prepared for this, because there's just so much that I think about, so many things all at once. So I'm jumping around here, but some things that just I just have to tell you are that not only did he, when he called me and he changed me. Let's go back to the job. So the job at the Methodist Church, okay? Like I said, she tried for a month to do everything in her power. By the end of this month now, at the beginning of the month, I didn't want the job. By the end of this month now, so much has happened that when she came and told me that, I'm sorry, there's nothing I can do, it has to be 10 years, it's been 9. If you still need a job in a year, come back and we'll see what we can do. I'm actually upset that I didn't get this job. That's how much has changed. So then I'm like, well, let's try somewhere else. So then I go and I try Delta, I'm going to church at Wynn Baptist now. And I'd left Ridgeview, started going to Wynn Baptist. And the only reason that I did that is because at that time, Wynn Baptist had a very big youth program for my daughter. And so I was thinking about her, and that's what, but the people, like, had it just been me, I might still be at Ridgeview. I don't know, but
yeah,
those were great people there. But, Delta. I went to Delta Rehab, Arissa Health, put an application in there. It was the same thing. They had the same background checks. They did the same thing. And so it was the same thing as with the Methodist Church. And then so somebody told me about the special workshop. So I go there. It's the same thing. Then somebody told me about the domestic violence shelter. So I go there and I'm like, it's going to be the same thing. They all use the same, whatever it is, for background checks.
So you can't have a felony within 10 years?
Within 10 years. And it had been 9. So I go to the domestic violence shelter. They send me my hire date. And I'm like, what? And they said, everything was clear. I was like, how does that happen? I still don't know how. God, that's how that happened. I knew I was going to do this. Let me back up. I always do that. Let me back up. When I got saved, the people that God placed in my life, I became part of a D group at Wynn Baptist.
That's a discipleship group.
Yes. This D group, they just loved on me, and they just poured into me and encouraged me. When I got sober, my daughter's dad and I, we parted ways, fighting back and forth. He ends up leaving. And so we stayed there at Cliff Ridge. And so now we have an apartment. I'm out looking for a job. I'm in the D group. The D group, a lady in my D group calls me. One name I have to say, because it's Angel. I mean, how great is that? Yeah. That you get a phone call from Angel saying, do you have any money set aside to get a vehicle? Well, no. Okay, well, we pitched in and got you one.
Oh, my goodness.
They got me a car. They got me they had 6 months of insurance put on the car. They gave me money to get tags on the car so I could go out and look for this job that a month ago I never wanted. And so I get this car and the apartment, And all the things are like starting to come together now. Now I've got the job. Everything was starting to come together. And then all of a sudden one day it just hit me, how God was changing my desires. My desire to not to work. Now I have a desire to work. And not only do I have a desire to work, but then I was also getting a second job. The rent was going up so high at Cliff Ridge that I had to get a second job to pay for that rent. But what I didn't know was that whenever I got this other job, they were going to factor in that money and the rent was going to go up higher and higher. So, anyway, so I have 2 jobs now. He just changed. He totally changes you and makes you into a new creation. Mm-hmm. He does that. And when, it says in his word that we are new creations. We are new creations. Everything of old is like dead and gone. Mm-hmm. And, I'm just so thankful for that. So I started working, have 2 jobs. I started going to, Celebrate Recovery. I started doing jail ministry. Then I also got into missions. Mm-hmm. And last year I went with Jeff Bronner to Brazil, mm-hmm. with a team to Brazil. And that was such a great trip. We, again, we were going, K and, oh wait, no names.
No, that's okay.
There were 4 of us ladies that were going with Jeff and Rachel to Brazil. It was a great trip. On the way there, I did not know K. I'd seen her mm-hmm. in passing, and Debbie and Connie, I'd seen them in passing, but I didn't really know them. I'd never really spoken to them. And so we got close on that trip. But on the way up there, we were in the airport, and I was telling them my testimony then. That was the first time that they had heard it. And I said, the other night when I was getting ready for preparing for this trip, I said, God put some things on my heart. Like we always say how, when he changes us, he changes, sadness to joy and anxiety to peace mm-hmm. and all the things. But it's so much more than that. And a few nights before we had left, I sat down and this is all the things that he brought to mind. And I just wrote them down.
So Melinda, my first mission trip was to Brazil.
I heard you say that.
Yeah.
I heard you say that.
So that's neat.
Yeah. I thought about it. I was like, whenever I go in, I'm going to say bon dia. And then I said, no, I'm not going to do that. These are just all the ways that he's changed me.
And you wrote this down the night before you left?
Well, a couple of nights before, we left for our trip to Brazil. Sadness to joy, anxiety to peace, a love for gathering together with the body, going to church, hating to read, to love for reading his word, mm-hmm. laziness to hard worker, always thinking and expecting the worst in people to seeing the good in them, spoiled and entitled to gratitude, entitlement to gratitude, being a taker to being a giver, holding grudges to forgiveness, shyness to boldness, gossiping about others to encouraging others, worrying about tomorrow to trusting in the Lord, addiction to redemption, jail inmate to jail ministry, fearing death to hope and glory and seeing Jesus face to face, serving self to serving God, worthlessness to worthy, people-pleasing and seeking acceptance of and approval of others, to living to please God above all, lack of confidence to confidence in the Lord, feeling a void, emptiness to experiencing the fullness of God, inadequate to having purpose, irresponsible to responsible, frivolous spender to a good steward of money, disrespectful to parents to respectful, lying to honesty, untrustworthy to trustworthy, felon to forgiven, sinner to saint. 2 Corinthians 5:17, therefore, if anyone is in Christ, he is a new creation. The old has passed away. Behold, all things have become new. So I told him that. When I was telling him my testimony, I told him that. Okay, so we get there to Brazil. Our week was going to be going to the schools during the day. And then the first 3 nights we were having a women's conference. And then the fourth afternoon we were going to go do some door-to-door. So that first night of the women's conference. Well, up until this, prior to, the plan was that I think Debbie was going to be the first one on night 1 to speak. It got changed on the way to I would be the one to speak on night 1. I get so nervous. I get so nervous that I jumble and shut down. So I was very anxious about that. But I was just getting up there, like you said, just having a conversation. I was just going to get up there and tell what God had done. Okay. I didn't factor in, even though they told me this on the way up there, I still did not factor in that sitting down and talking to somebody about Jesus is different, how different it is when you're using an interpreter. Okay.
You actually have extra time to think.
Yeah, well, I totally lose thought because if I have to stop and think, then my thoughts get off. If I can just go with it, then that's one thing. So I get up there and I'm a nervous wreck. And I say maybe 1 or 2 sentences. And then I froze like I did a while ago. I froze and panicked. There's a lot of internal panic going on. And then I just started crying. And I looked down at Kara Kay and I looked at Rachel and I said, I am so sorry. Because the people out in front of me, the ladies out in front of me, I didn't know what I was saying. So I looked at them and I said, I am so sorry. I was smiling. I said, I cannot do this. And they were like, yes, you can. Yes, you can. And I went, I really can't. Rachel said, read your list. And so I read my list. And then I walked off the stage. And whenever I walked off, I ducked out the side door. And Kara Kay comes around there. And she goes, that was so good. And I went, you were so lying. And she said, it really was. And I went, no, it wasn't. And she gave me a hug. And God knew what I needed. And he used her in that moment for that. And so I'm so thankful that she came out there and did that. And from that moment, we've just gotten so much closer together, you know. So we go back to the motel after that, and we're doing our debrief. And it just dawns on me that regardless of how we think things should go and how we think things should turn out, that our plan isn't always what God has planned. And yes, his glory shines the brightest in the ones, yeah. And so,
broken.
Right. That was such a great trip. And it also showed me how, you know, the next night when Debbie got up and spoke afterwards, Rachel says, we're going to ask some of you to come to the front, and if you want to pray for people, come to the front, and then those who need prayer, you know, come up. And so I just automatically walked to the front. I didn't know, I didn't even think about having to use an interpreter and all that. I just, you know, you need me to pray for somebody? Okay, I'll come up to the front and I'll pray. So I walked up to the front, and then these women started lining up in front of me, and I'm looking for my interpreter, and I can't find her anywhere. And I said, what am I going to do? I can't find my interpreter. And Rachel goes, just pray. And so these ladies start coming up, and I'm hugging them, and I'm praying, and they're crying, and I'm crying. And I thought, how beautiful is that there are no boundaries, like with God, and how the Holy Spirit, I don't know what the Holy Spirit was doing in them, but it was clear that He was working in them. And it was just so beautiful. And I'm just looking forward to the next trip that I can go back. I'm just so thankful for every day. Every day I'm in awe of everything that God has changed in me. Like, that list, everything that He's changed in me. And I'm just a completely different person. And I just want that for everybody. I want to be and I want to go talk to everybody I can about Jesus. And I want to bring my kids up the same way that I was brought up. God is so good, and He is so faithful. And I can look back over my whole life and see His hand on me throughout it all. And I feel like when I was going through everything, I felt like it was a lot of why me, and not understanding, and a lot of sadness. But now looking back on it, I'm like, all of this was just preparation, part of that molding and making and creating you into the person that you're going to be, into more like Jesus. Mm-hmm. And so I don't think that I hate some of the things that happened, but I just trust God. I'm just in awe of God. And every day in where I was and where He's brought me, and all the things that He's done in my life, and how He's changed me. And 2 Corinthians 5:17, therefore, if anyone is in Christ, he is a new creation. The old has passed away. Behold, all things have become new. And I also have another one I want to add to. It's Galatians 2:20. I've been crucified with Christ. It is no longer I who live, but Christ lives in me. And the life which I now live in the flesh, I live by faith in the Son of God, who loved me and gave Himself for me.
Thank you for joining us today. New episodes release every Wednesday, so be sure to subscribe and get notified when a new episode is available. You can listen on the Journey to Salvation website, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and wherever you get your podcasts. So, where are you on your journey to salvation?